We have all learnt about the hare and the tortoise story when we were young children in school. And that's what I'm going to talk today about. Just to kind of refresh our memories, the hare and the tortoise story is about a race between hare and the tortoise. Hare being faster, it ran very fast, but somewhere along the line it found that the tortoise was very, very slow. So it decided to take a rest under a tree, slept under the tree, and while it was sleeping, the tortoise slowly moved forward and actually won the race. That's really the story that we have heard about. But in real life, is it the tortoise that wins or is it the hare that wins? That's the question that begs our mind. And today I'm going to talk to you about one such activity or investments that is easily comparable to the hare and the tortoise story. Friends, under Section 80C of the Income Tax Act, you have various investment options that provide you a benefit under income tax. So by investing under Section 80C investment, you can hope to enjoy a significant tax advantage, a deduction from your taxable income. That's what it is. There are two products that I want to bring in comparison for you today so that we understand how they work and how you can benefit from them. One product is what is called the Public Provident Fund. Now, the Public Provident Fund has been a very, very old scheme. It's a sovereign instrument that's been offered by the government of India as a means of enabling us to kind of create a long-term corpus, especially for people who are not in formal employment. The PPF is a great way to create corpus, and that's how it's been for the last 30-40 years. I have personally seen a great number of people create wonderfully large corpuses using the concept of Public Provident Fund. Now, what is a Public Provident Fund? A Public Provident Fund is an investment that allows you to make a maximum of 1,50,000 rupees into your account on a yearly basis. The Public Provident Fund account can be opened either in select post offices or nationalized banks and other banks as well. Tenure of a Public Provident Fund is 15 years and renewable thereafter for a period of every 5 years. That's how the scheme is. The entire proceeds of Public Provident Fund comes to you free of tax, and the more important is it cannot be attached in any manner. It's one of the only investments that you can make that cannot be attached as part of any other scheme of when you owe money and so on and so forth. Earlier, Public Provident Fund was very interesting because the rates were very, very high. You had even at some point in time in the past in double-digit figures of 12 and 10% each. Of late, of course, because the interest rates have been moving down globally and in India too, the current rate is about 7.1%. The other features of the Public Provident Fund is that while there is no liquidity available, you can take a loan against it at a certain basis. As an example, if you are in your 7th year, you can take 50% of the 5th year balance as a loan against it and then repay it at your leisure. So these are some of the features of Public Provident Fund. Now, the Public Provident Fund, the minimum investment that you need to do in a year is 500 rupees, and the maximum, like I said, is 1,50,000 rupees for tax benefit. This is about the Public Provident Fund, which was the go-to product for many Indians for many decades now. Of late, at least in the last 20 years, there's another challenger to this title of PPF, and that is what is called, in the technical way, ELSS, Equity Linked Saving Schemes. Now, this Equity Linked Saving Scheme is a scheme offered by the mutual funds. The mutual funds offer this. You can either choose a lump sum investment or you can choose it as an SIP, that is, you do a monthly investment into that scheme. These schemes, because they offer tax saving, are locked in for a 36-month period from the time you invest. And the investment goes into equity mutual funds. which are a category by themselves. So the ELSS schemes are identified separately. They're not the common mutual fund that you invest in. These are specific mutual funds identified as ELSS schemes. And like I mentioned, they are locked in for a 3-year period. For the last 20 years that these investments have been available, investors have been slowly trickling into these ELSS and making investments. One of the questions that I often get asked, especially by newer investors who are looking at creating larger corpuses in the next 15 to 20 years is, should I use a PPF route to create that corpus, or should I be looking at ELSS as an option? Now, this is my answer. Assuming that at the rate of 7.1%, that's the prevailing rate, one were to invest 1,50,000 every year for 15 years, then you would have set aside 22.5 lakhs. And that 22.5 lakhs at the rate of 7.1 would create a corpus that's roughly about 38 lakhs. On the other hand, ELSS, going by the past experience of what the yield has been in a product that has been invested 15 years ago, say 2008 of January, would have yielded you about 9%. Now 9 and 7.1 may not seem a very big difference, but in terms of returns, the same 1.5 lakh invested for 15 years at 9% would have generated a corpus roughly of about 44 lakhs, my friend. Yes, the difference is a 6 lakhs additional higher corpus using ELSS. But I want you to remember this one thing. January 2008 is actually a very, very bad time for stock markets, because you remember that Jan 2008 was the period just before the Lehman crash happened. So the stock market globally was an all-time high, and that's really not a great time to judge the stock market returns from. But if this ELSS has generated superior returns over a 15-year period, even by investing at the worst possible time of stock market, then you can imagine that it can give you a much better return in better times. Obviously, ELSS is not for everybody. So who is ELSS suited to? ELSS is suited for somebody who is looking at long term. Clearly not just 3 years, but they need to be giving investments a much longer tenure, say a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, for it to blossom better. Second is, one must not be perturbed by the stock market. Stock markets are very volatile, my friends. So they tend to be up and down. While the PPF is a government guaranteed return that doesn't change, the ELSS can be quite volatile. So if you don't have a stomach for volatility, I'd say stick with PPF. Even though it gives you a lower return, it's a better product for you. Third, and not the least, is that one needs to create a much higher corpus using ELSS. Then one needs to be prepared to wait for 15 to 20 years. Now in PPF, there is a natural restriction that you cannot draw money before 15 years. There's a kind of lock-in, so to say. But in the ELSS scheme, the lock-in is only 3 years. But unless you have a mindset of staying invested for the long term, a large corpus will still elude you, my friend. So if you have these 3 things, that volatility does not bother you, you're in it to create a long-term corpus, if you're willing to kind of look at instruments that can generate a much higher return, ELSS is the place for you.